Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fourth edition of CDUP's Knowledge Exchange series. We thank you for taking your time out and joining us today. So let me briefly introduce CDUP for the guest who has joined us for the first time. CDUP is a service tech platform helping aspiring entrepreneurs to start, run, and build a successful business. It offers more than 100 different types of services across various business functions. We associate with entrepreneurs right at the beginning of their journey and help them in incorporations, getting relevant business licenses, securing trademarks, accounting and business bookkeeping, fundraising, and annual compliances. So while servicing the business owners remains our key focus, spreading knowledge and creating awareness forms an integral part of our vision. And hence we have this knowledge exchange series. Through this exercise, we intend to connect domain experts with business owners and help them learn and understand nuances of critical business functions. So today we'll be discussing a very interesting subject, and that is entrepreneurship. It has been a buzzword for last many years, which has caught the fancy of many Indian youths. We hear a lot of success stories every day, but don't really know what goes behind it. So today we try and decode what it really takes to turn an idea into a successful business. We have our guest speaker today, Mr. Ganesh Raman, who will be sharing his views on the subject today. So let me introduce Mr. Ganesh Raman. Mr. Ganesh Raman, he's a VP and heads the global internal audit for 24/7.ai. He is passionate about creating positive community impact and leads 24/7's corporate social responsibility initiatives as a CSR trustee. In addition to his technology acumen, he is also an astute financial leader with a proven ability to turn around profit and loss accounts and increase operating profit. He has earlier worked at GE Healthcare, Visteon, and Lucas TVS. Mr. Ganesh Raman has submitted his PhD thesis on entrepreneurship at the Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore. He is a qualified post accountant and has completed his PGDBA from Loyola Institute of Business Administration, Bangalore, with triple gold medals. He is an alumnus of Bharati Darshan University and has secured a gold medal for topping the university. Thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh Raman, for joining us. It's a privilege to have you speak on our platform today. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot for the quick introduction, Sumit. It is a pleasure talking to you and as well as your team. And thanks a lot for joining. It's on a Saturday, and then if you are coming at 11:30 a.m., it shows your dedication that you want to learn something and then improve on. And I will try to keep the spirit on in terms of what are all the things what I could share on this particular topic, which is once again I'm very passionate about it. Thank you all for joining. So first, I will be, there are two affiliations I have. So I just thought I will do a very quick introduction about my organization. And then I'm also doing my research at IISc. And I will also talk about it a bit. First, about my organization where I'm value adding. We are into dealing with uniting the systems of intelligence with the systems of management. We are an omni-channel organization, provide customer engagement through our omni-channel strategy. We allow the end customers to reach us through mobile or web or IVR or chat. And we have an intelligent system, which is basically a conversational AI, which can also predict the intent. And then we manage the journey so effectively. So we can integrate with multiple CRMs of client, the HCM systems or the ERPs or IT services management tools, and then provide an excellent customer service. We are innovative in this particular space, and then that's the reason we have 118 patents which are granted in the space, and we have 184 enterprise customers, and we have millions and billions of transactions happening every day as we speak. And just to talk about this particular aspect, while I'm an entrepreneur, I would rather say over the last 25 years of my corporate expertise, I have also studied entrepreneurship at Indian Institute of Science. So basically, I have researched on the technology startup failures in India, and I have looked at the causal attributes, life expectancy of a startup, and how entrepreneurs exit and how do the startups exit. So this was my focus area. of my research, and I have submitted my thesis, and I'm likely to do my defense by the end of the month of June. I've worked under the guidance of Professor M.H. Balasubramania, and my organization guide is Dr. Sitaram, who also happens to be an IISc alumni. So this gives me the pedestal for me to talk to you about the topic which Sumit has given it to me. And I hope to make it entertaining and informative to you. And here is a quick agenda. I will just first talk about in general about entrepreneurship. Then one critical aspect I just thought I should bring it up, and which is how to differentiate a startup versus an SME. And when it comes to ideas, we cannot talk about it without innovation. So I will touch upon this particular aspect. Besides that, how to get that idea into an execution mode. What all the resources available. I just wanted to talk about it through entrepreneurial ecosystem model. And the next one is going to be in terms of the very high level view on startup success and failure. Today, I'm going to only talk about profile. The causal factors and the life expectancy and exits will be a bigger discussion. Probably we shall reserve it for our next quarter discussion maybe. And how do we take the idea to an effective implementation? What are all the reflections that we need to do? I will touch upon the business model canvas, which will help you to shape your idea into a business outcome. How are we going to make this idea deliver value to the business, what you are thinking about? So that we will explore it with the business model canvas. So this is the agenda I have. Okay, guys, first let me just talk about the entrepreneurship. This is the one picture which I thought which is pretty, it has really narrated the thought process of being a maker to an innovator. What differentiates us? The ability of an innovator is to solve the problem. From the feasibility, the desirability element gets added here, while when it reaches the hands of an entrepreneur, he converts that into an opportunity and makes that as a viable business. So that is what I am thinking all of you are here for. So we see various opportunities, and then how to make it sustainable, how to make it repeatable, how to make the organization deliver it consistently to the customers. That's what we will be looking at it being an entrepreneur. So right from that innovation to converting it to an opportunity, that's what differentiates an entrepreneur who's going to be passionately working towards converting that dream, right? So he is going to organize the various resources which are required, operate it. So this is one thing. When it comes to getting engaged with that idea, it is like getting married. With all due respect to the married people, I'm saying. So operation is like, okay, is a continuous thing. You have to keep delivering day in and day out. So it is not a one-time charm which really attracts and then takes things away. You have to continuously operate. Every transaction should be delivering the customer satisfaction. So that's what is very important. And in this entire process, there are multiple risk elements which creeps in, and how the entrepreneur is going to put those required structure to deliver continuously for the venture. That's what is going to really differentiate an enterprise, a startup becoming an enterprise. Moving on. So there are multiple definitions on entrepreneurship, how it benefits various stakeholders. So it really helps the nation. There is a growth of nations happening because of entrepreneurship. It indicates the economic prosperity of the nation, and the GDP of the country grows, and the per capita income grows, and the competitive index of the nation also improves when the startups prosper. I will also include the word SMEs because SMEs are pretty critical. I will try to differentiate it in my own way, how I am differentiating a SME and a startup. So the competitiveness of a nation, when it increases, the skill set increases. So the human resource improves, the quality of life of the people improve. So there is going to be a job creation, and the regional development happens, which in turn multiplies the national competitiveness. So that's what I just thought I will highlight it to you. Why entrepreneurship needs to be focused. Moving on, this is something I just wanted you guys to respond. So let me just switch back 1 second. I will just go to the previous question, previous slide. And I just want you to use the Zoom window and then respond to me. What is a unicorn? How do you define a unicorn? Yes, valuation can be completely subjective in my view. It can be, if you are a Jackie in Excel, you can increase the valuation also. So there needs to be, yes, fundamental values are there. While there is, it is to a greater extent, in my view, it is subjective. So that's the reason I'm saying the unicorn race is going to be, yes, we will see those things in detail. So, so how many number of unicorns are there in India? If you look at it, there are 37 unicorns in India with a valuation of 122 as on January. And an average valuation of every startup is around $3.3 billion. And if this has been true, the economy should be growing at a pace which is not commensurating with this number. And on an average, 1,400 tech startups are given birth every year in India. And the 6 startup hubs of India includes Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, and Chennai and Hyderabad. And let me also bring you another perspective of unicorns. Why I am saying the valuation may be a little bit a tricky element. You look at that from January to now, in a period of 3 months, we have got additional 9 to 10 unicorns getting added because of the valuation. Let me also look at it. Some of these are out of the 47 unicorns which we have in India. You look at the profitability of them. How many of them are profitable? To my surprise, most of them are not profitable. So can we ever see a so-called unicorn, a profitable organization operating with a profitability? It's an element that I want you to reflect on. It's basically the fundamentals of the business needs to be right. The foundation has to be strong. Then you can build the organization, you can build the enterprise. Otherwise, it cannot withstand the weather and it will get withered away when there is a strong wind. So while there is a race for the unicorn, I would urge you, if you are in a startup exercise, focus on the product, focus on a lot of things which is with respect to how you are going to get your customer satisfaction and who sees the value in your delivery. That is really going to take your enterprise to a greater height in the long run. Be it a product or a service, it doesn't matter. But unless the fundamentals are there put in place, it may be very difficult for the organization to sustain in the long run. That's my view. And there are many people who subscribe to it. There are many people who are ready to debate it. I'm ready for a discussion at the end of during our Q&A session. Moving on. So I just thought of one small story. Once again, at the end of the story, I'm going to seek your responses. So carefully listen to this story. So this was a conversation between me and my hotelier friend. So I went to his hotel. My friend wanted to prove that he is very smart. And he called one of his person who was working for him, who was a teenager, maybe late teenager. He came. He wanted to show that that boy needs to develop his cognitive skills. I was wondering, like, okay, how are you saying that? He seems to be pretty normal. He put a 5 rupee coin in front of him. He put a 10 rupee note in front of him. He asked him to pick the bigger one. The boy picked the 5 rupee coin. Then what happened? Then he asked the boy to go away. My friend told me, now you understand? His cognitive skill needs a development. I was a little perplexed. Next day, I visited the hotel when my friend was not there. With my inquisitiveness, I just called that boy. He was there and my friend was not there. I asked him, hey, you seem to be normal. You know things well, but why did you pick the 5 rupee coin when you were asked to pick the bigger one? Can you guess your answer? And I would like to see your response in the chat window. Guys, pretty quick in terms of your responses. What was the response of that boy? I want you to guess. So the boy told the day I pick this 10 rupee note, this game will stop. Nowadays, now I'm earning this 5 rupee 20 times a day. So I make 100 rupees in this way every day, whereas my salary is only 50 rupees. So how many of you think the boy is an entrepreneur or my hotelier friend is an entrepreneur? This boy seems to be picked up the importance of the revenue stream. So he has sustained his revenue despite being fooled again and again, but he has shown the way how the revenue stream needs to be sustained, right? Thanks, Luan. Right? That really validates the importance of the revenue stream. You cannot take your eyes off from the revenue. We can do so many things, but the moment we keep our eyes off from the revenue, we may not be able to execute our plan. So the operational revenue is very important. Otherwise, we have to have a big pocket, have to look at your ancestral properties for continuing the business, which most of us, or the first time from the family, we are coming out with so much of enthusiasm, we may not have a lot of deep pocket. So every product idea or a service idea need to accrue the revenue for the organization. So that's what we should be interested in when we are getting into an entrepreneurial journey. Moving on. There is one important question that Sumit wanted me to address. How does a startup is different from a SME? Let me just add a couple of perspectives so that it is clear. Startup guys, it is their strength is in terms of innovation. They come with a completely different idea. They want to experiment it. They want to look at how things can be turned around, and they move ahead on the innovation quotient a lot. And they have to identify their customer. They have to evolve the product over a period of time, and sustainability is definitely a risk. While SMEs work on the other hand, they know most of the cases. I would say they know their customers. They know the product area that they are going to deliver. What be it a product or a service, they know whom they are delivering. They know what their customer wants. They have an established customer need, and mostly they have the established market also. Because of that, their ability to sustain is on the higher side. They are like the smart boy who has the ability to see the sustainability, and then they are able to operate at operate and then turn around the business, and they are able to grow on a steady pace. Whereas our startup friends, they look for a rapid and exponential growth, and then they take that risk factor with them because they want to play that game of innovation. So that is how I try to differentiate. And then probably I'm ready to pick any questions during our Q&A time. In the interest of time, I will move on. Right? When it comes to innovation, this is another area I just thought I will bring in some more perspective. So we spoke about startup, and then we also understand that we need to look at the innovation component because startups are trying to focus more on the innovation side. So I just thought I will pick the reference from the 7 sources of innovations of Peter Drucker. So when we look at it, the unexpected occurrence, if you look at it, one of the unexpected occurrence in the last 1 year, we can definitely cite the COVID, right? Was it an opportunity or is it disguised on most of us? It's a great opportunity. If you look at it, for the humankind, we are able to show that we can develop the vaccine in less than 12 years and then have it administered to our people, right? So while it has really taken away some business in some of the industries, yes, once again, they are bouncing back. The hotel, the travel vertical, the hospitality vertical had taken a hit, whereas the innovation and the creativity of people has taken to a huge benefit. It has benefited the humankind, and it's an opportunity for the humankind. When it comes to the next word called as incongruence, is what Peter Drucker is talking about. Can you ever imagine an online examination or a online conference and all earlier. See, otherwise Sumit would have invited me to Pune, my favorite city, and then we will be having this conversation, right? So this incongruities forces us what we once thought as impossible. Nowadays, we are able to see online examinations, which we once thought, which was reserved only for the elite categories. Now it is available across, right? When it comes to the process needs, just can you imagine at the government level, probably you might have been seeing some notifications which are running around in your WhatsApp. India is the first country to be giving the digital certificate those who are getting vaccinated. If you look at PAN, if you have an Aadhaar, you can get your PAN number in less than 10 minutes, right? So there are process improvements which are taking place at all levels, including government, and the way it is helping the people is really great. You can get a loan sanctioned in less than 1 hour if you have all your documentations, if you have your PAN and you Aadhaar, everything in place, and you have the credit worthiness, then you, with your IT returns, you will be able to see the loans getting sanctioned in less than 60 minutes, which was earlier at least a 60-day affair, or if not a 6 months affair, right? And you look at the industry and market change. Take mobiles. We have to wait in the queue for about a few months or a few years to get a telephone connection. Now you walk into a showroom and then pick your mobile phone. You get your mobile phone getting activated in less than 15 minutes, right? Including all the verifications. You can pick the car of your choice the way you want. You can customize your car if you want, right? And you look at the demographic changes. That also drives a lot of innovation. Earlier, we used to be, everything was a B2B driven. Now, all the products design are moving towards a B2C. The demography is getting slowly wiped out with a lot of products reaching the masses. And changes in perception. How many of you would have thought work from home was a reality? Whereas the IT and IT service industry has proven that it is possible, and we are able to support the globe sitting at your home or sitting anywhere once you have the internet connection. And new knowledge. This is, you can see the way Apple has packaged various things. Nowadays, many things are coming as a package. So how you can turn the idea into an action and a sustainable business model, you can look at the sources of innovation and then get the required benefits. Moving on, the new product and processes and services requires tremendous amount of energy, effort, and time. And that is what an entrepreneur is able to effectively combine. And I use the word called as bricolage. They are able to mix it so judiciously and then deliver it so that their customers get the requirements satisfied. In that process, they are smart in making good margins to their business. I'm talking about those who are making money, those who want to burn the monies of the investors. I'm not talking about them here. We will reserve that discussion for a separate during our Q&A. So there needs to be a commercialization. So while there are innovation which is happening, it has to be commercialized. It has to be packaged in an effective way. Otherwise, it will lie, the innovation will lie, it will get buried if it is not commercialized. That is where we need an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Government of India is trying to put a lot of effort to connect the industry and academia. The government is playing a huge role in taking this innovation happening either at the industry or at the academia to reach the masses. Once again, they try to look at the factors which are available at the hands of the industry or the academia, try to effectively mix them so that the consumers, end of the day, get the benefit. So this is a triple helix model, which is once again propagated by my professor. So it has a lot of positivity in it. There are factors in terms of, I will be talking about it subsequently. So I'm reserving these components for our subsequent discussion. So the nonlinear growth in creating the value can happen if we leverage. Trying to do everything on your own is going to be really a risky proposition. That also we will see it in our business model canvas. So effectively leveraging the ecosystem is required by an entrepreneur has to benefit from this. That's what will create the value to the customer. So when all these components, when we were discussing, so one of the key thing which was coming out was the success and failure. Is there an opportunity to differentiate? So is there a way that we shall look at how we shall look at what are the lessons learned it can be? So can we have some prescription? Yes, there are some opportunities that are that I can put it in front of you to say, these are all the aspects that you can take care of it if you want to be avoiding the failure or preventing a failure. But is it in a complete exhaustive list? May not be. It can, to a greater extent, it can provide you a view. So while we have spoken about the startup journey, the startup has multiple challenges. To access a rose, you have to cross the thorns, right? So if a startup has to be successful, it will overcome the challenges. And then the startup lifecycle stage really poses multiple challenges as they progress. And across the globe, it is closer to 90% of the startups experience failure. It is more than 90% of the startups which experience failure. So that was my focus in my study. I want to understand the startup failure phenomenon. So I focused on the causal attributes. I focused on the life expectancy of the startup and the exits, which is currently not point of our discussion. So I restrict my discussion in terms of only the profiles and as well as how we shall learn from there. So while the startup failure, there are multiple definitions. The chosen definition I have taken it. The internal stakeholders perspective is different. While the entrepreneur perspective says, yes, I have, as long as I have launched a great product, I'm successful. That may not be the case. While the business perspective is different and economic perspective is different. So if the startup has experienced a failure when there is a cessation of operation, when there is a loss of identity. What is loss of identity? If there was a planned exit through an M&A or was a forced exit through a management change, they also form part of the element of failure because the organization had completely lost its identity. It stopped delivering under its own name. So that's the definition we had. And when we looked at the startup life cycle stages, the emergent stage startups have not earned any revenue, and the customer testing and the market identification couldn't be done. So they had challenges on these. Stability stage startups have earned revenue and they were not yet profitable. While they were able to, they have to get the repeat customers and then do the market penetration. They had challenges in those areas. And the growth stage startups are earning revenue and they were profitable. So they were able to scale and then they are able to do the market expansion. That's how we have looked at that in terms of the various startups. So when we looked at the profile of the entrepreneurs, the education profile, the entrepreneurial background, the financial stability also we analyzed, and the startup profile in terms of what they offer to the customer, their co-founder experience, the sources of funds, and then their human capital, what they were having. That also we analyzed when it comes to the profile. So out of the 151 startups we analyzed, we could figure out the life cycle stage of the startup has a significant role in deciding the startup success and failure. And when it comes to the startup profile analysis, we could see that the product and service is becoming a bigger differentiator. So most of the startups which have experienced failure have focused on a product side a lot, while the successful startups have established the revenue stream, the continuous revenue stream coming through the services, and then they had the basket of offering, and then they have expanded on their product portfolio. Once the service maintained, the business sustained, They were able to manage the product portfolio, while the failed startups had burnt out on their cash because they were not able to get any revenue. So this is one important analysis when we looked at what the startups were offering to the market. And similarly, the focus of the high tech, the failed startups were focusing more on having more technology STEM resources on their hand, and then try to deliver what the market requires. Whereas the successful startups focus more on the customer delivery. They were ready to compromise on a STEM workforce, and then their prioritizations were pretty clear in terms of what they are going to deliver to the market. When it comes to the investor funds, if you could observe here, the successful startups stayed away from investors, while failed startups, especially those who were in the stability and growth stage, they had bigger pressure from the investors, and then they had to they have experienced conflict with the investors besides the conflict with founders, which really led them to experience failure. When the co-founder experience was high, they are able to steer the startup to a success. And when they're able to deliver the customer experience, be it a product and service or a basket of offering, they were able to become successful. When it comes to entrepreneur profile, this is another area where when I look at it, when I look at the failed startups, some of them, close to 15% of them say, I don't want to get back because they had a pretty bad experience and then they try to avoid it. In terms of entrepreneurial expertise also, I don't find much of a difference. While the startup, if the startup co-founder focuses on only one startup instead of having multiple startups, yes, while multitasking is great, multiple startups seems to take away the charm. Remaining focused on a single startup really helped the successful startups to emerge and then be successful. And age, which is a proxy once again to an experience, really played a significant role. So this was one of the couple of critical findings from the profile analysis of my study. You can get into the details of this particular paper. I will share it through Sumit, and you can have a look at it. And then if you have any queries, you can reach out to me. Moving on. So this is another area I just thought I will highlight it to you, but I will not be able to discuss things into the detail in the interest of time, and as well as I'm limited till I get my defense, I will not be able to get my a lot of discussion. I also looked at the behavioral characteristics of the entrepreneur. How are they? What is their confidence level when they initiated their startup, when they were doing the execution, and then when they exited? So their risk-seeking ability and their decision-making ability. So while I have looked at all these components, I also looked into the internal factors. What are all the internal factors? These are all the resources which is available in the hands of the entrepreneur who can vary it to get the required business delivery, right? So when it comes to finance, let me just elaborate on the finance. Hey, Sumit, time is 12 and a quick time check. Can I go up to 12:20 and then have the Q&A for 10 minutes?
No, you can carry on. No, we don't have time constraint. Please carry on. Take your time.
Okay, right. So when we look at the finance, I looked into several aspects of in finance. So if you look at it, most of the entrepreneurs run around capital. And I have told you earlier itself, if we can avoid running around, rather focus on the product, that is really going to be really getting you more returns rather than running behind investors. If you want, I can share you the story of Practo. Shashank completely turned away the investors in the initial phases till the product got stabilized. Then later investors were coming, hey, can you please take my money, and then you go for your expansion. So all his 5 of the acquisitions happened subsequently with the investor money once he established a great product. So he always advises, spend time on your product, have the great roadmap, have the product adoption, focus on the customer needs. That is what is going to really get your later investor money. That way, he was able to establish the revenue stream and if possible, go for the debt. That is okay, but manageable debt, what you can afford, Here, I will also talk about the effectuation principle of Saras Saraswati. So if it can be managed, what you can afford, go for it. Do not burn your finger beyond what you could afford. And having the OPEX control by leveraging the external factors. If you look at it, the infrastructure, how many of us can go to an academic institution and then take their services which is available, their labs, can you utilize it? There are incubators which are operated by government through NASSCOM. Government is operating the 10,000 Startup India initiative. Every state government is offering so much of incentives, offering so much of incentives. How are we leveraging them? You can completely minimize the operational expenses if you go and then knock at the right doors. So I think Sumit may have some of the offerings, probably try to leverage it. And one of the things, if you are in the hardware space, will be the supplier credit. If you can effectively manage your supplier credit and operate on a positive cash, there also you can stand to get benefit. And most of the founders have also experienced payment delays. While they have an assured order, they have delivered the product and services, they had to experience payment delays. So those are all the difficulties of an entrepreneur. And then managing the cash. Since they were not aware how to manage the cash, they also got into difficulties. If you can get an idea to an execution mode, I think you can learn the basics of finance. Probably down the line, I can offer you a basic course on finance, which really can teach you what is the profit and loss, what is a balance sheet, what is a cash flow statement, so that with a simple spreadsheet, you can really manage. When you can do 1,000 lines of code with a few lines of Excel, you will be able to see whether you are operating successfully or not, right? So finance is one important ingredient which you can learn. Probably you can learn it from your mother. You just go and then ask any of this aspect. She will be dealing with this day in and day out without knowing all these elements, but rather she will be operating very nicely, right? When it comes to the product, this is one area I would say the 100% focus should be on this particular component, establishing the product market fit and then focusing on having the roadmap without any compromise of the investor. Why I'm talking about investor pressure here? Investor pressure can take the detour, and then startups have gone detour, have shut. So the roadmap needs to be decided by the right set of people so that you can continue the operation, and then right pivoting when the product is not meeting the customer requirements, do the pivot so that you can scale successfully. When it comes to the marketing effort, the product promotion, the market study, most of the times these are all the ignored components. We are all very passionate about the product technology without knowing who is my customer, without knowing somebody ready to do the POC. We go ahead and then build the product. At the end of the day, it is good for refrigeration. The proof of the pudding is the customer using it, and it should not be too early or too late also, and offering the product at the right time. Similarly, doing the pricing, most of the entrepreneurs had challenges. How to price is one of the major opportunity that you should be aware of. The moment you understand what is finance, and then you see what is going to be the volume of your operations, then you will be able to do pricing. And for that, once you do the right pricing, then you will be able to drive the adoption in a significant way. Similarly, in terms of the conflicts, how it arises when the roles and responsibilities are not clear between the founders. So one area that you need to be aware of, what is going to be the delivery of co-founders, that should be pretty clear. Avoiding conflict with the investor. One thing which I would say, the successful startup guys have learned the art of managing the investors very effectively. So there are other opportunities in terms of conflict with the employees and the periodic reviews on the other stuff, not getting into the details. Similarly, getting the right resource, be it at any level. Startups, we have the friendship is beyond business. That's what we need to understand. While what works in friendship may not work in business. So you need to learn to differentiate friendship from a partnership when it comes to the business. And the poor hires, if we don't have the right skill set, that's really going to cause a mismatch when it comes to the product delivery or a service delivery. And entrepreneurs are always, I call them as a street smart individual. So they have to convert the environmental opportunities. That's the reason they keep sensing. Their sensing elements is really great. Any opportunity they convert into a business opportunity. Any challenges they convert into a business opportunity. So be it any legislative change, or if there are fluctuations in Forex, how I am going to convert everything into a business opportunity. You should be street smart in terms of having a sense on the externalities. And as well as availing mentorship. This is one area, many a times we have mentors, we go and then sit with them, closing our ears. This is one thing, and then later blame, my mentor has not advised me. Who is going to, at the end of the day, execute it? It is the entrepreneur, right? So if you avail mentorship, have your ears and eyes open, listen to him, put a plan of action, and then execute, and then go for a verification. Many a times you go and then sit with the entrepreneurs, and then you find that, yes, he has told me, he has advised me, I have ignored it. What else the mentor can do? He cannot, you are not a child for him to go and then do the putting the monitoring in place, right? So how we are going to leverage our mentors is completely in the hands of entrepreneurs. So we need to differentiate. You cannot get all the mentoring which is required from one single person. So the business mentoring is going to be different from the technology mentorship. So I have just elaborated on the various factors that an entrepreneur can look at it. So almost I have covered 33 factors. Closer to 10 of them, I consider them as a priority. Probably in the next session, I may plan to cover it for you folks. Moving on. So leveraging the mentorship. Nowadays, the mentorship doesn't cost. If you're here, if you're going to pay for the mentorship, that is different. Whereas in NASSCOM or any other good incubators, if you get a seat, you will be getting mentorship free of cost. And if you can have a professor to do if you are having a hardware involved, you can get into an academical institution and then have a professor to support you. Then you will be able to get the costs down. I'm talking about how to minimize the operational expenses. And the incubators offer you so much of space free, bandwidth free, all those things you can minimize your cost. So you should be aware of those elements and grab them. No need to spend when something is free, right? If you decide to have your deep pockets, then you can afford to do that. So just to reflect on this, I'm suggesting the business model canvas. This is once again a separate session, a one-day workshop, whereas we can have an introduction to business model canvas probably in a period of 45 minutes or 1 hour. We will do probably at a later point in time. So as an entrepreneur, I would advise you to play with this. I've also given, you can search for this. There are so much of material available in the YouTube, and I have my video also shared through Sumit. So you can understand what is the need for establishing your startup's value proposition. You have to first get convinced it's not only the idea can be converted into a customer value adding proposition. You need to figure it out. It is the passion should get differentiated with the value addition or the value proposition to the customer. So first, that is going to be the biggest reflection an entrepreneur must do. In addition to that, what are the customer segments which we are planning to deliver? Do not attempt to boil the ocean. Choose the right customer segment and scope it to a few locations, or if it is going to be a global product, yes, choose the cities where you want to deliver. All those things you need to be, you can be smart in terms of doing it. And then what is going to be the various channels of the delivery, and how are you going to establish the relationship so that you can have the customer stream established? You remember the value of the revenue stream? The revenue stream is important if we address these components in terms of the customer segment, the customer channels, and then the customer relationship when we have a product which can add values. In addition to that, please be aware of the cost. Know your cost. I have emphasized on the capital expenditure and keeping the capex low and keeping the operational expenses optimized by leveraging the various things which are available, right? So if you look at it, who are all going to be my key partners? That you have to figure it out. Don't try to do everything yourself. If things are available, how you can leverage partnership. This is what, once again, I am trying to say, differentiate friendship and partnership. Have the terms and conditions clear. Even if you're going for a co-founder, how you can avoid the conflict is having a clear conditions between you and your co-founder in terms of the having the right conditions. Many people miss that, and then later it becomes a lot of heartburn, and then people don't want to see each other. Why? Friends becoming foes is not unexpected because of a startup, right? So establishing that partnership needs to be, it should be a leverage. You should know what to leverage, whom to leverage, when to leverage. That's what needs to be done through the right partnership. And in terms of the key resources and the key activities needs to be sustained day in and day out. You cannot shy away from so that your customer delivery gets impacted. Whereas the key resources are going to provide you the capacity to deliver day in and day out. So this is typically a CapEx, and then this is typically an OpEx. So if you know the cost and then differentiate it, and then if you can know your partners, this will tell you how to price your product. So the cost structure is important for you to arrive at the pricing, which is going to get you the revenue. So if you can visualize your startup, have some reflection. It may look tough, but at the same time, if you have a honest answers to these questions, and do this as an exercise, and then if you can have if you want, you can schedule through a WhatsApp call. I'm ready to support you in terms of walking you through that. Once you have your basic work done, it will give you a great amount of visibility. Are you focusing on the right things, or you are overdoing it or underdoing it? In which areas where you need to improve? All those things it can effectively communicate. So the business model canvas by Alexander Osterwalder is a great thing, a great tool for you to test your idea. So you can use it on multiple scenarios for strategizing or for co-creation in terms of partnership, for evaluating your current startup if you have one, and understanding if there is a customer entry, new competition entry, or a new customer entry, you can also evaluate it. And if there is an innovation or a new idea generation, you can also validate it. You can have a new business segment for which also you can do this business model canvas. And for creating the alignment, many a times what the co-founders or the entrepreneurs struggle is bringing that alignment within the team. Be it your co-founder, be it your employees, be it your customers or suppliers, bringing that alignment and making them to see what you see is a difficult proposition. The moment you have this one sheet, which can really help you to make your stakeholders to see the value addition, what you are offering into your business. So from the idea of the business, from the idea, you can convert into your business opportunity through this particular tool. I would strongly encourage you to practice this one and leverage this, reflect it, so you get the required benefits. Not only that, when you are looking at any investment opportunity or a M&A opportunity or an exit also, you can make use of this particular tool. So you can master the art of how your value addition components in terms of ideas, how you can take it to a business opportunity. That's what I thought I will offer it. So I just thought I will end this presentation. I will probably end it with a small summary. So you have the innovation, solve the right problem with your entrepreneurial mindset, with your bricolage behavior, and leverage the ecosystem, leverage the academia, leverage the various opportunities provided by the government through an incubation, and monetize the idea, and then carefully play with the business model canvas, and then understand if what is that you are trying to deliver, and are you going to make money. At the end of the day, when you are doing the business model canvas, you don't do business for charity, rather you do business for profits. That's, you should be clear about it. So your revenues must be better, your cost should be lower for you to get the profits. So that you should be willing to do for you to make your business sustainable and profitable. That's what I thought I will offer you guys today, and that's it from me.
Okay.
Sumit.
Thank you so much, sir. I mean, I think it was a great insight into the subject we chose to discuss today, and I'm sure we'll have some questions from the audience. So let me just request the audience, if they have any questions, they can put it up. So I'm going to unmute, the unmute function, and if anybody has any questions, please unmute yourself and put it across. We'll try and answer to our expert. So if anybody has any questions, please speak up. I have a question myself, Ganesh. I mean, every time we hear idea being great, execution is most important, when it comes to create a successful business. Any entrepreneur who basically is looking to start a business is confident and hopeful of himself that he'll be able to execute. But then we see the success rates are very, very dismal as far as creating a successful business is concerned. So in terms of ensuring the execution is right, and it actually results into a successful business creation, how do you differentiate between entrepreneur having successful execution capabilities versus somebody who doesn't have it? How is it determined? How do you differentiate between that?
So this is one thing I just thought I will take the help of the behavioral components which I was trying to look at it. So I was trying to, if you have observed, one second. So I will take the help of these three components. So mostly there are three elements which we looked at it. So when there is going to be a lot of confidence, is when at the time of initiation, when things go right, and then you have more confidence. When things take a U-turn, there is the confidence level drops to a greater level. Whereas another thing which I'm trying to look at it is the risk-seeking ability. So this is one particular aspect I normally, this is one fantastic theory. When you are risk-seeking, when you are risk-averse, when you are profitable, people are risk-averse. When you are not profitable, people are more risk-seeking. This is the famous theory of prospect theory. So under losses, people doesn't exhibit the risk-averse behavior. Rather, they are more risk-seeking. This is what, when we know what is written on the stone, typically that is also another thing in terms of the decision-making ability. You should know when to, probably if any of you have invested in the market, options. You execute an option when there is a returns, right? When there are no returns, you don't execute the option and then you come back with that limited loss. Similarly, being aware of your tolerance in terms of how far I will go, in terms of the effectuation principles once again comes into play. What is my affordable loss? How much I can afford? Or that is typically your option premium that you pay. So you can, what I would say is, do not be risk seeking beyond a point. You need to know when to cut it short and then when to exit. So that option, that decision making ability is becoming very critical, and avoiding the risk seeking ability irrespective of losses is one thing which is significant. And when there is superimposing of the confidence with the risk seeking ability, it's really a problem which really can turn an entrepreneur. Since your question is more related to an execution, Sumit, I was focusing on the personal characteristics of entrepreneurs, which really comes in the way of their becoming successful, which comes in the way of execution. And definitely having the right setup, the organizational setup is pretty important. That is also another thing which I have observed. The conflict between the founders should be avoided, and the conflict with the investors. Those are all the key elements which really spoils the sport when it comes to the execution.
Great, great. I think I will just have one more small follow-up question on this. I mean, typically, we hear that, the best businesses are created when you are able to identify a problem and then provide a solution for it, right? But then identifying a problem itself remains a challenge. Though, there are a lot of institutions, there are a lot of channels, which teaches you how to find a solution for a problem, but nobody teaches you how to find a problem itself. So when people who are looking for entrepreneurship and they're looking to identify a problem, is finding a problem, is it a gift which a human is born with, or is there a way where people can learn to identify problems and create business opportunities by offering a solution to it?
Okay, my answer is in terms of twofold. One is basically that's what I was talking to you about, the innovation. So you have to look at it, the opportunities, how to do the opportunity conversion is definitely one of them, right? And then to see that whether it is a business making, does it make business sense? I would say turn on to the business model canvas. I'm trying to convert this into a science, right? So while there are ideas, will it become a business, successful business opportunity? How to do that? That is where I will say the effectiveness of your idea and then the solutioning. Try to test it with the business model canvas, and then do a POC and all the initial testing, all the things without burning so much of a cash by availing the leverages which are available from the ecosystem. So my answer is in terms of twofolds. One is basically the innovation that can really answer, have you identified the right problem? And you can validate that idea with the business model canvas, whether you have converted that opportunity into a value proposition through this particular component. Yes, definitely there is an art element to it, which is basically how smart a person is going to be in terms of identifying the problem and converting that into a business opportunity. Yes, there is an element of art in it, while we shall try to convert that into a science by through these two components. And hope I have answered.
Yes, I think yes. Again, going back to the audience, anybody has any question, please unmute yourself and ask.
I had one question. I needed to understand if there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and just running a business. In the sense, is there a gratification that we get when I say I have become an entrepreneur because I have an innovative idea and I'm doing a business जो everyone else is doing? Say might be I just have a shoe store and I have created my own label. Say I'm gathering stuff from some place and I'm just selling it. So I'm just a businessman. So do I find a little bit of difference between calling myself an entrepreneur and calling myself a businessman? Like, have you done any kind of study therein?
Okay, let me put it. See, as long as you are, that's what, like, okay, the terminology wise, there are so many things in terms of an innovation driven. As long as your business makes money, if you can put a business model which can really make the money, I would say, and you keep innovating in that space, particular space, with differentiating in terms of value adding, in terms of not only the. So how you are going to differentiate yourself? If you are probably, if you are in the Pune city, you should be known as the best shoe offerer to any, what is the segment that you want to offer. So maybe schools, or maybe to business, or maybe to women. So if you can differentiate and then identify that particular value offering and then stand out, then why not you call yourself as an entrepreneur, right? So imagine once one particular segment is becoming great, then if you venture into the other business segment, there is no business is a bad business as long as it makes money, right? We are not, as long as we are not going to steal, or we are not going to say a lie to make money, any business is a good business at the end of the day, right? There is going to be a product
Correct.
delivery or a service delivery. It is definitely you are bringing that a unique mix, and you offer to the customer through your product and service, and then you make money in that entire process. You are an entrepreneur, I would rather say, rather than getting hassled by the terminology. Who's going to stop you from calling you as an entrepreneur?
Exactly. Yes, because I'm facing this trouble with youngsters today. They say ki traditional business nahi karne ka hai. This is, then I'll not be called an entrepreneur. I need to break out of the box. And
Okay.
so there is definitely always some kind of a little bit of friction going on there with the terminology. If I will not go as far as saying earn money.
Okay, this is one
So
more thing.
that's the
Probably
reason
I will
I
try
had
to.
asked this question.
Thanks. Thanks, Swati. I have one more, probably a great video by Raghuram Iyer. I will share that with you. I will share it through Sumit. Basically, he talks about India doesn't need so many unicorns. We don't need $1 billion business. Once again, that terminology really makes me get psyched sometimes, right? A $1 billion valuation with no $1 billion revenue, which is coming in any point of time, right? Or $1 billion profits coming in at any point in time. So he talks about India doesn't need $1 billion 50 startups. Rather, India needs 50 billion small enterprises which can make a 5 lakh business every year. So
This
if
is
50
brilliant.
million, that's the way we need to approach. Our management institutes have spoiled the country in terms to some extent in terms of the corner offices, and then people not understanding the basics of the business, and then trying to think only the $1 billion really matters. Rather, how to convert a business into a sustainable business. And probably you should listen to him. He talks about how a street vendor should be supported by all of us so that he has a sustainable business, so he can run his family. And the world is not going to end tomorrow for us to have a exponential growth every day. Rather, the humanity is going to continue beyond a few generations that we could visualize. So we have to look at a sustainable model, not an exponential model. That he will really articulate it very well. I will probably share that, and then you can see that.
Thank you. I really appreciate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ganesh. I have a question here, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. In today's age, we see that there are many budding entrepreneurs who want to start the business, but they are waiting at the shore. And the one thing which is restraining them is their opportunity cost. So what is your valuable advice as to how do they need to tackle this situation of calculating their opportunity cost and not starting the venture? Because as you rightly said, that if India needs to grow, we need to have many entrepreneurs rather than just building unicorn.
Absolutely. So see, the thing is, see, one thing which I can say, the opportunity cost is one thing which many of the failed entrepreneurs who have experienced failure, rather, I would say, will talk about. So they will talk about the importance of the opportunity cost. Hey, I spent my time, valuable time of 3 years or 5 years, and if I had continued in my job, just basically, I don't think that as an opportunity cost. Rather, those who go back with those lessons learned and then cross the tough rivers, they have really made so much of money once again. So it is basically what you are passionate about. Are you passionate about business, or you want to, what is your risk appetite? That's what will determine. And what is your, once again, I go back to this behavioral components, which will say, what is your confidence level? What is your risk appetite? And then how deep is your pocket? That can really determine, you can decide whether to venture into entrepreneurship. And you need, once again, I have a way of saying it. Who asked you when you come out of your college, you have to become an entrepreneur? Gain experience, gain that required expertise, have some money available with you, have the right runway. People call the terminology as runway. Have that as a right terminology, runway, and then venture into entrepreneurship and then explore the world. Why you have to burn the finger? Like, okay, no. When I come out of the college, it is like a child which is getting into the swimming pool and then wanting to learn the swimming. You have to learn the steps. So there is nothing wrong in it having the required expertise gained in corporates and then knowing the game and then playing the game.
I think we don't have any question as of now. So this brings us to the end of our webinar. I sincerely thank Mr. Ganesha Raman for taking time out of his busy schedule and coming on our platform to share his views. I think it was thoroughly enjoyed by everybody. And I hope to see everyone in the next webinar when we plan one. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.